All right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And, well, we are starting this new series, and you guys know about it. We talked a little bit about it on the last episode 127. So now we're on 128, and we have got our first guest lined up for the show. It all started with a conversation. Somebody tagged me and said, it's actually Nathan from Countershocks, and said, hey, you know what? Victor's got a platform, the Chasing Waypoints podcast, and let's help get motos back to Baja. And I enjoy riding Baja, so let's talk a little bit about it. And this is going to be really cool. I've already lined up a bunch of new guests, and I'm absolutely looking forward to it. So this is the Back to Baja series. And we're going to be talking to none other than Seth Barnes this time around. Let me get the link going, but basically I published a post in the Pro Moto Racing or Pro Moto Baja Facebook group and said, you know what, let's get some guests on the show. This is what I'm thinking. What do you guys think? And then Seth Barnes reached out and they tagged him and said, hey, you know what, he's got a few adventures. We were talking a little bit. He did mention a little bit about his team. I'm going to let him explain that part of it to you guys. And let me send the link over to him here. And we'll do that one. And then let him know it is a audio only. And let's see if this works for him. But yeah, so you guys heard a little bit about what the race series is. You know that the Baja 400 is the one that's coming up next for these guys. We'll talk a little bit about it with Seth and see if that's something that they're going to be doing. Again, just like this is the first time you're tuning in to the episodes with Chasing Waypoints, I do not prep conversations. I do not edit the interviews. It's just raw. The number one compliment, and I will take this and I will stop the show before this changes, but I love the garage feel of this. So if you guys haven't heard any of the episodes before, I strongly recommend going back, check out the episode with Mo Hart, basically the recap of his Dakar experience. It is a long episode, so grab your favorite beverage, grab your favorite snacks, and tune in and listen to that one. It is absolutely insane to hear a sportsman rookie going to the Dakar and hearing their adventures. And so I was absolutely stoked. Still, I can't believe it. In a 3-year history of the Chasing Waypoints podcast, it is the third most played episode, which is absolutely insane, across 100 countries, and they're listening to us. So, waiting on, let's see if we can get Seth on here in just a second, waiting for him to pop up, and then we will switch channels to that one. All right, I think we got him on the line. Let's see here.
We're on.
Seth, you there?
Yeah, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Perfect.
Good deal.
That's always the thing. I don't usually like pre-run the episodes, so the audio quality sometimes on the other end is kind of like, but you're perfect.
Good.
Coming in good.
To hear.
Okay. So, right to it. Oh, that was kind of an abrupt end to the music, but oh well.
There we go. We're in.
Yeah, I know, right? And live. So, all right. This whole series, right, that we're talking is Back to Baja. For me, that was my origins before I started the Chasing Waypoints podcast, was riding motos in Baja, racing in Baja. And then I went the rally route. And then I decided to, hey, let's talk a little bit more about Baja. My first thing is how did you guys even decide to go to Baja? Tell me, give me a little bit of background on your team and what you guys... Oh, you there? Uh-oh. We lost him. All right, let's give him another link here in just a second. But basically, that's what we're trying to do is just figure out... let me see. We're going to have to go back. Like, I want to know, just like on the Chasing Waypoints podcast episodes, if you guys have heard, a lot of the stuff is like, okay, how did you guys get into rally? What was the main thing? And what even inspired you to pick up your first road book, do that thing, and even get into this? Oh, please hold. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Victor with the Chasing Waypoints podcast. Hey, super quick break in the episode. Want to talk about really quick about Spotify for podcasters. If you are interested in getting your story out to the world, starting your own podcast, it is super, super simple. Head on over to spotify.com/podcasters and get all of the information. It is a one-stop shop. You can edit, you can do Q&A, you can do video podcasts, all sorts of different things in one platform. They handle all of the distribution for you, so it is super, super simple and effective. So with that being said, guys, let's get back to the episode. All right. So it has been a little bit of a challenge getting the logistics. I don't know what is going on. They've updated the apps. They did all sorts of stuff, and I got a feeling that there's some issues here. But let's see if we can get Seth on the phone. Ringing now.
Hey.
All right. There we go.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
I have this feeling that whatever update they did is like, they're not playing nice with each other. So we'll leave them be for the time being. We'll just go back old school and go to the phone call.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, so team owner, main.
Yeah. So Soflete, they were on board. So Soflete stands for Special Operations Forces Athlete. And they're a fitness company for military and first responders. And basically, what they kind of stand for is what a lot of this desert racing stands for. So it's endurance. It requires tenacity. It requires resilience. And so, bringing military veterans into this racing world, this hard racing world, was what they thought would be a good idea, and it has been so far. But so they did Vegas to Reno last year, and the goal for this year was to try to do all of Best in the Desert, and then almost like a 3-year plan where we would do Best in the Desert series and maybe some other desert series, and then we'd move to Baja, and then we'd even move into rally. So doing the Sonora Rally, just kind of a stepping stone that way. Kind of going, crawl, walk, run, you could say. And then so with Best in the Desert having the issues that they were having this year, we even made a trip all the way out to California from North Carolina, where we are here, to do Cal State 250. We get there the next morning, we get the news that, that race was canceled. So we know we're kind of adjusting fire. We've got some good sponsors on board. We're saying, what could we do? What else could we do for the rest of the year? The year's almost, gone through. What do we got? And it's really like, let's just move ahead with our goal to do Baja. And so it was April, a little bit last minute, but, we made the decision to do the Baja 500, and then, we'll be going to do the Baja 1000 as well. So we kind of switched gears into what do we have to do to get to Baja? And so for me, I'm a networking guy. I like to utilize the resources that are out there. I don't like to reinvent the wheel. So I started just reaching out to people who have been down to Baja before and had some really good connections, and with some of the trophy truck guys and McMillan Racing team, just to help out with logistics and figuring out how do we do this thing that we've never done before. And with all of the help that we got, it's started to look like such a far reach idea, getting a whole group of guys that have never been down to Baja before down there. And then as time went on, just pieces kept lining up, and we were able to make it happen. Nice.
Well, that's good. I mean, so you've already, like you said, as a networking guy and using and moving pieces on the puzzle and trying to get everything lined up. Was there one of those pieces that was like the most daunting or one of the most difficult ones?
I think the hard part is just trying to visualize how everything is down there. It's the racing down there is a whole lot different than a lot of the races up here. And so, my background initially isn't even in desert. Before I joined the Marine Corps, I rode, motocross, and then I rode like woods, hare scrambles, stuff like that. And then later in life, I got more into desert, but it's just a whole different picture down there. So I was really trying to just visualize how everything's going to work out. And then also, taking that from one person's perspective. So, I'm doing the organized and then expressing that to everyone else who's going down there who hasn't been down there. So, whether it's, Chase, how Chase is going to work out, stuff like that. It's just, not just one piece, a whole lot of pieces, and then just learning all of that stuff.
Yeah. And this was, first time literally like ripping Baja? Like never ridden recreationally, never been down there for anything else?
Never been down. This is my first time even going to Mexico. So,
oh, damn.
Yeah. So, I lived for a while in Yuma, Arizona, and then I lived for quite a few years in San Diego area. But being active duty military during all of those times, I was never able to go down to Mexico. So, I've ridden the desert around there, but this is my first time down there.
Actually down there. And from what you thought, like, I think that, so the goal with the whole series, right, is getting people, sharing stories like this, right? There's a lot of people, I meet a lot of people that are like, I don't ride in Baja and I've never been down there. I've never raced in Baja. I've never done anything down there. And it's like, how can I explain to them, in a way that's relatable, right? Like they're like, well, you go down there, so it's not that big a deal for you. But for you, never been down there, was there like the culture shock? Was it everything? Was it what you had imagined, or was it just completely different?
In some ways it was what I imagined, and in other ways it was completely different. I think the culture, it was a whole lot more welcoming. Not only the culture within, the country and the area, the Baja area, so the people that live down there, but also the culture in the racing down there. So, everybody was so warm, welcoming, and even from a lot of the locals down there to also, the race teams and the racers, whether they're on a bike or they're on a trophy truck or whatever, it's almost a whole lot more like a family down there than a lot of the racing is up here, I think.
Interesting. So walking around the pits, everybody's there helping each other versus everybody's got poker face and, they're like, kind of standoffish
exactly.
when you come around. Interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, that's with your riding experience, right? Motocross and woods racing and riding down in Baja now, what kind of prepared you for that? Which discipline, or all of it?
Yeah. So, and looking at the whole team, a lot of our riders come from a lot of different backgrounds. So, my background, I've been riding for a long time, but, I kind of did the stepping stone. So I, raced motocross at a young age, moved into hare scrambles, GNCCs on the East Coast, and came out west and started getting into the endurance racing. I did, 24 hours of Glen Helen, Ironman, and a lot of just, the desert racing out there. And I think, what kind of prepared me for it is just having a well-rounded, riding skill library, you could say. Because down in Baja, you have everything from, I was doing one part of my section, I was doing creek crossings to whoops to rocky, sections like the summit down for the Baja 500 this time. It was everything, so not, it's great to, be able to go fast through the desert and everything. And that's where I think that from the outside looking in, you see a lot of the hero shots of the guys just blasting the whoops or just going really fast. But there is a lot of really technical stuff there as well. The summit this year was, big basketball sized boulders for miles and miles and miles. So it requires a really well-rounded type of rider to go down there.
Yeah, that was the where you wish maybe a little bit more time or getting some time on a trials bike.
Yeah, I mean, if you have that background, that could help you, especially in that summit section.
In that summit. So, okay, so Baja 500, I mean, it's iconic, right? Everybody knows the Baja 1000. Baja 1000 is a bucket list item for many people. Baja 500 obviously is the warm up for that, and you get to see some of the sites. What sections did you ride? Like, what was your section sections at the 500?
Yeah, so I rode from race mile 70, so like around K77 area, race mile 70 all the way to Valley T.
Okay, Ojos Negros to Valley T.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So we rode Sportsman, so we got to do the Sportsman shortcut, thank God. By that time I was pretty spent. But yeah, from race mile 70, Ojos Negros area, all the way over to Valley T is the section that I rode.
Okay. That is, I'm a little familiar with the section, if they still run it the same way. It's been a few years since I've been through, but I know in Ojos you get the big rolling hills, you get the crowds of people, and
yeah,
I'm sure you noticed that the crowds of people are usually denser where the jumps are bigger.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Is there still some silt beds in the back did they go through all that? There's some silt beds, and then you got to make these hill climbs just to get out towards heading towards the Valley T section.
Yeah, so a lot of the silt beds were really kind of after the summit. In between that summit area to race mile 170 was a lot of the silty stuff. There's a little bit of it on your way to Valley T, but not a ton. But yeah, I would say really from the summit to about 170, which is like what's it called, La Ventana?
Yep. Yeah, north of San Felipe and the yeah. I've heard horror stories, and I mean a lot of people that follow the racing saw the posts of the summit. And I guess there was even some controversy there as far as like, the cars running it and but you guys weren't given that option, no? Or I mean, on a moto, yeah, it's bad, but not as bad as it is in a truck that's, 6 feet wide and
yeah. And I think that's kind of what at least, saved us in some ways from getting passed by a ton of the trophy trucks was that summit section. I know the McMillan racing team, they had some issues, mechanical issues right there at that summit. And I think a lot of people did too, just because it was rough. I mean, on a dirt bike, you can kind of like pinpoint where you want to go, but I could see on, these bigger vehicles, like you're kind of limited to, if something big is in the way, you got to just go over it. You can't really go around it. Yeah.
You have, with a 6 foot wide, or I don't even know what their wheelbase or track width is, but you have an infinite amount of lines that you can do, and you can literally pivot, turn the bike if you needed to. So,
and that was definitely happening out there for sure. It was I pre-ran the course throughout the week, and I the first time I came up on the summit, I'm like, what is this, like Erzberg? I'm like, I just came from like flowing whoops and, just desert to like massive boulders. So
yeah, this is what would Pol Torres do on a,
exactly.
On a 450.
Yeah.
Speaking of Pol, I see your pictures. You're on a Yamaha. What was the weapon of choice for Baja? What did you guys race?
Yeah, so we raced YZ 450 FX. We have a 2023, which initially, so you look at what a lot of guys run down at Baja, and it's a lot of the KTM variants, and it's Hondas. But this year when we were down there, and I was looking at the past, like, okay, how are Yamahas represented down there? And in the past, they haven't really been represented too much, but this year there were a lot of them down there. And I think one of the things that stops that is the tank capacity. So, we're running a 2.8 gallon tank, but thankfully you've got Baja pits, nearly every 40 miles down there. So we never really had an issue with fuel, but I think a lot of people are realizing the Yamaha and, how rock solid of a tank that motor is. So we saw a lot of them down there at the 500.
And it's interesting. So one of the guys that I work with is, does the Glen Helen. He does the Hare Scrambles, the GP stuff over here on the West Coast. Actually, he's going to be doing the night race tonight. Today's Saturday, right? Yeah, tonight.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that, and it's like, what bike would you have in the garage? And he has been talking about the FX, but he's looking at the 250. He wants something smaller because it's a little more technical what they do.
Yeah.
What did you guys do? I mean, it's a brand new bike, right? 23 450 FX. How do you prep a bike like that? What did you guys do? Was there anything special mods? I mean, how do you build a bike?
Yeah. So special things. So I got a lot of help from Trevor Hunter. He's super knowledgeable on this platform. That was one of the reasons why we were like, it's a no-brainer, because he did the whole Glen Helen Endurance series on them without even touching the motor. So like the motor's rock solid. Some of the things that we did, we took the WR stator and flywheel. We put that into the motor just because we're running lights, we're running Stella, we're running, we're powering things that the FX isn't really designed to power. So that's one of the things we did, and really just kind of bulletproof in the bike. We adjusted suspension to suit us for Baja as well, but, safety wiring things. We changed gearing a little bit too. So we went up in the front sprocket just to give us, a little bit wider range on gearing. But a lot of it was really just kind of the general bulletproofing of a bike to ensure that it's going to last this whole race.
Yeah.
But as far as motor goes, we didn't touch the motor at all. It was perfect.
Yeah. And that has been, I mean, well, the Hondas for a long time, I don't know, the newer generation seems to be better, but it seems like Hondas for a long time had transmission issues with them in the 5-speed. And then, and I agree with you. You really didn't see, I mean, especially like the Cowies, you still don't see Suzuki, you still don't see down there. And Yamaha is like the only other outside of the Austrian brands that you do see down there. But like you said, not that many of them. So, so I find it, it's interesting to me to find out, because I agree with you. They are a reliable platform. I even think that in the future, that might be something I have Austrian stuff now, but if I was going to go to something, I think I would be, headed to the Yamaha crowd for the same reason. It just seems like everything's just kind of bulletproof. Yeah,
they've got it dialed in. And when we were in tech, I was surprised to see how many were down there, just because you hear things, and especially with tank capacity, that was probably my biggest worry. I did quite a few tests where I ran the bike down. We would get like 70 miles. But thankfully with Baja pits there, about every 40 miles, fuel was not an issue at all.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. So 2.8 gallons, you would clear it out in about 70 miles to where you were comfortable. Obviously, it wasn't bone dry, but it was
exactly.
You're not going to go much further.
Yeah, and there's this like small portion that's kind of around the shock of the tank, because the way that Yamaha tank fits in there, it's really weird. You got to like take the subframe off to even get it into place, and so there's this small portion right by the shock, and there's actually a gas light on the Yamaha. And so when the gas dips down to that small portion is when the gas light comes on. And that's when I would usually be like, okay, that's where the comfortability kind of ends. Yeah. Like, you can get a few more miles once you reach this point. But, and then in testing too, I did, everything from just really wide open riding all the way to just, technical stuff. And that seemed to be around the place where 60 to 70 miles was like the comfort zone on that bike.
Gotcha. Okay. I mean, that's still, like you said, I mean, with Baja pits being there, I mean, that definitely, it helps, cover it, and I guess there's something to be said, right? I mean, about having, okay, cool. If you had 4-gallon capacity, now you're riding a 4-gallon, what is that? 28 pounds of gas.
Yeah. Yeah. Sloshing around.
Yeah. I can't imagine that's easy. And meanwhile, I'm a big bike tinkerer, so I love, messing with things, and I'm already on the website for Safari tanks going, doesn't Safari make something bigger?
Yeah. Yeah. I was down that rabbit hole too.
I mean, they make rear tanks. I don't know if the rear tank will work, but
yeah. So I think, as, so that you've got the new bike out for 2023 in the F. And then as time goes on, that new bike will transition over to the FX as well. And I think a lot of companies, as more guys are riding these Yamahas, I think a lot of the companies, I've talked with some of the guys over at IMS, and I think, once that need arises, there's going to be companies that are developing bigger tanks. And I know even for some of the not older, but, maybe around 2018 WRs, they do have a lot bigger tank option. So I think that, these companies that are designing the tanks, I think they're going to get creative over the next year or two to make a better solution. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm seeing, for the 2019, a 12.5 liter. And then I see, for the 18, the previous gen, they do have 15.5. But then I guess, then at that point it becomes like, okay, well, how much of this do I really want to, do I really want to be topping it off? Do I really want to be carrying all that extra fuel?
Yeah.
It becomes does it help you or does it actually hurt you in the end?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think, like you brought up with so many Baja pits around there, if you were pitting for yourself, it'd be another thing. But with, that resource that is Baja pits, they're all over the place, and that makes it so it's like, you have a 2.8 gallon tank, but that could be the right tool for the job when you have so many pits.
Yeah, I guess. And man, these guys are, everybody's on them. I hadn't been on their website in a while, but it looks like they also have stuff for the 790. So, okay, so let's talk next race. What, so Baja 1000, or you guys got something in between?
Yeah, so we're doing a few things in between. We're going to be doing Vegas to Reno in August. And then it's pending a little bit right now, but we're thinking about doing the 24 Hours of Glen Helen just to kind of get the team together right before the 1000, get the bike, everybody comfortable on the bike, and just kind of get us all working together right just before we go down there for the 1000. But that'll really be it between now and the 1000.
Okay. So 24 hours, I think 24 hours is probably the best. Vegas to Reno, I would think is a really good shakedown. But I also think the 24 hours, just the sheer, the length of it, even though it's the same track or whatever it is from day to night. I think the bikes still finish Vegas to Reno during the day.
They do. Yeah. Most of the time.
So there would be good, probably heat, and heat management. And 24 hours of Glen Helen is just literally proof of concept for the bike, the motor, everything, working as planned.
Yep. Just getting everybody, just kind of meshing well together again. And, after especially the break of, from the 500 to the 1000.
And how do you guys, so this year's 1000 is going to be a bit unique, right? Starting down at the bottom of the peninsula and then basically racing home. Have you guys already talked about, how pre-running is going to go, or what sections maybe, or is there some logistic stuff that you guys have already started on?
Yeah, a little bit. So one really cool thing, Andy Kirker released that for sign up and tech and everything, you'll be able to have notarized waivers. So really, one or two people can kind of go through that whole process down at the bottom, down at the start. Which really helps out. So then you don't have to lug everybody all the way down there and then, do that piece. So how we're kind of thinking about it, and as time passes, we're going to, we've gotten word from McMillan that we can kind of, work into their logistics plan a little bit. But I think how we're going to do it is we're going to space out kind of small little pockets of people throughout the race course. And so those, pockets of riders and chase, they'll pre-run their sections in their area. Maybe they're staying in an Airbnb or something throughout the peninsula. And then on race day, it'll kind of just be like a repeat of how pre-run goes for them. And then we'll all make our way back up to Ensenada as the race goes on.
Yeah. And so
that's loose for now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's until the map is released, then you really get an idea of how it's going to go. And team of 3, or are you guys bringing an extra body on board for that?
So we're definitely bringing another body on board. We have 5 riders on the team right now, which is really good. But for the 500, we had 3, and some of our guys, one of our guys, he's still active duty military, and so he couldn't get the paperwork done in time to be able to get down there. And then another of our riders, he actually hurt his shoulder. So by the 1000, we should have a good 5 riders who are able and ready to go.
Nice
on this thing. But yeah, we're going to try to bring as many people down as we can, because even throughout the 500, if we would have had an additional rider, I think we could have done a little bit better. And, we wouldn't have, taxed each individual rider so much in their section.
Yeah. And so you guys, that's always something. So I've had some long conversations with Colton Udall, and he loves the long stint. Like, you put him on a bike for hours on end. What about you guys? I mean, do you prefer to do like a shorter 40, 50, 70 mile loop, like basically run the bike out of gas and then switch off, or how do you like to work that?
Yeah. So for the 500, it would have been a little bit different based on the course. So how we did is we started off from the start to mile 70. We had, one of our riders do that section. And then I did from 70 all the way to Valley T, which ended up being like 185 miles. That stint was a little bit too much, I think, for comfort and also for speed. So by the time I got past the La Ventana section, I then enter, the whooped out stuff that aligns Highway 3 all the way to Valley T. And in that section, I was just spent. So if we could have had another rider right there, that would have been good. But I think for looking toward the 1000, it's just going to be breaking it up as evenly as we can. We kind of going back to your original question. I think, I feel like 100 miles, 100 and, at the most probably 150 miles, especially for like the 500 is as much as I'd want to go.
Yeah. That's a good stint.
To be fast too, I think it just comes to a point where you're just, for me, I was just through those whoops. I was just kind of like hanging on. I'd done the summit and I'd done the La Ventana section. I was just spent by that point.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a constant. I mean, I dislike whoops. I will literally be I think my realization of how crazy it was racing motos in Baja was one year. Did you guys, I don't think you guys went down Zoo Road, right? I think you did the summit.
No, we did not.
No.
Yeah.
I rode a section of Zoo Road and I knew it was only about a 6 mile from one access road to the other. And I was like, I'll just do it. And I started going through these whoops and I'm going, these things are huge. I mean, I know they're big, but I'm like, damn, on a motorcycle, it just seems like they might as well be, twice as big.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way that the Honda guys and all these fast guys take this road up. Like they have to have a line. So at one point I remember stopping and I went to the left about 100 meters and then I went to the right 100 meters and I found 0 tracks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these guys literally just went up that. And it's beyond me. So, I mean, whoops are absolutely insane. I mean, it's and then especially the Baja whoops with the timing, sometimes the timing changes on them. And or the rocks, or I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. And I know the section you're talking about is the one that parallels the highway that goes back to San Matias.
Yes. Yeah.
Through that wash. Yeah. And I mean, it's a lot of fun and it looks cool. And there's a few like up and down sections there. And it's a little technical too. It's not just flat whoops, but man, yeah, I can imagine after I've dealt with all of the trials section of the course.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And also it was like, right by that, race mile 170 La Ventana area, it was 97 degrees. So it was just toasty. But I think that, if we could turn back time, and have another rider, someone starting at that whoop section, just be strategic about it and try to be as fast as you can. But somebody, if I could have started fresh on the whoops, I think it would have been great. But yeah, that is an interesting section there. Cause if you start somebody in that section, once you get up to the top of San Matias, you get back into the more Baja type racing, Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit easier. So did you get a chance to pre-run the whole course or did you just do your section?
I just did my section. And so how we did pre-running is, our 3 riders, we kind of broke off into individual chase teams and each guy each day ran their sections or pieces of their sections, just to kind of utilize time best. And so that each person could get through their section and understand what they were going to experience on race day.
Which is kind of, yeah. And how far advanced did you guys do it? The week of or?
Yeah. So the race was on Saturday, June 4th, and we got down there the Monday prior to the race.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And so, our goal was to pre-run that Monday and Tuesday prior to the race. Wednesday was like a consolation day. If there was at any point, guys were feeling uncomfortable about something, they could do Wednesday as well. But really like after that was like, get the bikes ready, we had a spare bike down there as well, but get the bike ready and then just kind of rest up, hydrate, make sure you're ready for Saturday.
Yeah. Get ready for the chaos, the controlled, I mean, within a certain extent, the controlled chaos.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
But fun chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Man. So who, I mean, to me, the ultimate section down there is running the coast. That I think, I don't know. I suggest if you guys, how do you guys pick your section? That's who decides who's going to get what? Cause I'd be the first one to avoid San Felipe. I'll be like, nope,
Yeah. So I decide, not to toot my own horn here, but I would say I'm the best rider on the team. And then, so with that as well, I wanted to make sure that I'm setting everyone else up for success. So knowing that whole summit and then La Ventana area and even the whoops before San Matias wash and all that, I wanted to do that to set the rest of my team up for success, kind of knowing some of their strengths and weaknesses. So how we started it was Brent, the owner of Sofleet and kind of our main guy. He's our rider of record. He started the race, at night. We got there at, I think he took off at 4 a.m., but we were up at 2 a.m. So he really did from the start of the race to 70. And then I did that section from 70 to 185 over to Valley T. And then he actually hopped back on the bike. So he was with our chase crew that was chasing me. And then basically right right past Valley T Tacos, we did a wheel change. We did our rider changeover. And then he took all the way from Valley T through, the beach, the amazing part, and then all the way to race mile 400. And then from 400 to finish our last rider rode. And so our last rider, he's a Marine veteran. He's an amputee on his right leg from below the knee. And so we also wanted to set him up for success as well. So part of pre-running was also determining for those guys. My section was locked on. I knew I was doing it, but determining for those guys, like what would fit them best. And especially with our buddy who's, missing a leg, we want to set him up for success as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's a huge, important thing. And it's cool that, like you kind of have that control over it. You accurately assess each rider as far as their ability goes and what they've done, and kind of cater the section. Like, this would be a better section for you. I mean, safety wise, first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then competitive wise, if this is your jam, like you enjoy this part of it, this is where you're most effective, then we want the most effective person on that part of the course.
Yep.
So that's that's pretty awesome. Yeah. Cause I always look at that, like who gets what. I mean, I've talked about it when I talk about adventure bikes, guys riding these big ass bikes around Baja, and a lot of these sections, they do them on adventure bikes, and like riding within your ability, knowing that you're out there by yourself. There is no chase crew. There is no helicopter. There is no and they'll ride a whole Baja 500 course or long sections of it. I've done the Valley T crossover on an adventure bike. I've done all the coasts all the way back up to Ensenada, and it could be a handful, but you have it's like there's race pace, there's pre-running pace, there's adventure bike pace, and then there's, just going out for a tour. And I think, wisely people should choose that. So it's cool to hear, it's catered to what you do, your ability, what you're able to do. So you pick a section accordingly and assign it. So that's pretty awesome. One of my kind of last questions is, so this was your guys' first Score race. So tell me, like, I did it for years on the car side of it. What's it like now, though? I mean, was there things that were maybe clunky, that were a little bit confusing? I mean, if somebody brand new is listening to this episode that's thinking about doing this, what was your experience, registration and all of this stuff? I mean, was it?
Yeah. And so, part of the reason why, I was interested in doing this podcast too, is to help the guy who hasn't been down there before. Cause me going down there my first time, there are a lot of people that will automatically kind of shut you off if you ask. And, they almost make it like a gatekeeper thing. Like, they'll discourage you from going down there for whatever reason. But there's also a ton of people down there who are extremely helpful. So even starting from the beginning of the process, calling Score on the phone and asking questions, every single question I asked, they either knew the answer right away, or they pointed me right into the direction of someone who did know the answer. So that was extremely helpful. Okay. So to the guy who's thinking about going down, hasn't been down there before, know that Score themselves are going to be really helpful to you. So whether you're calling the number in the United States or calling someone down who's down there in Ensenada, everybody was extremely helpful. And then kind of getting even through the border, talking with Score, they kind of give you instructions on, hey, this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do, what you should bring, what you shouldn't bring, crossing the border. And then so just inquiring from those guys, and looking at all the lists and everything that they put out, all of the updates to get across the border, and then getting down there through tech registration, everything else. It was all very professional, very well done. We didn't have a single issue. Any questions that we had, were answered, and it was a really seamless process. It was pretty good.
Nice. Good. And I mean, that's always, like, I think that there's a lot of unknown down there. And
absolutely.
The terrain, the people, the ranches, where you're at in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's a bunch of unknown. And I think that it is actually kind of one of the safest times to go down there. I mean, my bike's ready to go. I mean, I could literally just pack a day pack and then go ride down there. And I'm not, not worried about it, because it's like, just like I wouldn't be in downtown LA after dark in certain parts of that city, I wouldn't do the same in Baja. So I don't know, like, I don't see necessarily the difference, because I know a lot of people say, well, like, no, it's so dangerous and it's the Wild West. And I go, yeah, there's a lot of places that are the Wild West, and you don't even have to cross an international border to do that. Yeah. So it's, I think that, yeah, for the racing, it's one of the safest times to be down there, because it's safety in numbers. You got a bunch of people running through there and doing all of that. So it's good to hear, it's a smooth process. I did see some updates about that, like, hey, like a border crossing caravan, and they've gotten very very proactive about that. And I think the tourism board is really seeing that too. Like, they're understanding that, hey, this is, has and will be for a very long time, a source of tourism, and it helps all the little communities.
Yeah. So. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there wasn't anything that really caused us huge problems or anything. I mean, one of the biggest issues, or not issues, but one of the things I was worried about was crossing the border with the bikes. And, I've heard, you got to have all of the paperwork ready, which you do. It's, you need to have all your ducks in the row, but that process, the guys searching our stuff, they were stoked to see the dirt bikes, and they wanted stickers, and it was a really awesome process.
Oh yeah. Stickers is currency down there.
It is. Yeah. You got to have stickers. And so, what that does for me is it makes me want to go down there again and again and again. And I think, I'm in North Carolina now, but I'm going to take a trip out there before Vegas to Reno, out to California.
Nice.
To do a little bit of setup with our bike. But, I was talking with some guys, and I want to kind of make a day trip riding down there or something like that, just because, the people are so amazing. The riding is so amazing. Like, especially in the race, you get everything. It'd be like if you started off in, sunny Oceanside, California, and you go and you ride through the desert of 29 Palms, and you come back around. I mean, you get to see so much, different landscape and everything, and get to experience so many different types of riding just in one race. I mean, it's, you go down there once, you're going to be addicted, and you're going to want to keep going down there. Like, you're going to want to make a way. Yeah,
no. And especially because it's not, well, I don't know how it is in North Carolina, but I mean, here, like, say for instance, I'm based out of San Diego. You really can't go on a ride in the backcountry without hitting locked gates. Land and being able to go out and do these kind of rides. I mean, you a lot of times you can do it on an adventure bike, but you're not going to find all these, like, just miles and miles of open desert roads, and that's worth riding. I mean, I'm not saying that Plaster City isn't cool, but that only works for so long before you're like, okay, well, I'm over this. So yeah, the endless amount of terrain that you can ride in Baja, literally in one day. I mean, from Pine Forest to Ocean, is literally feasible. So, man, that's awesome. Well, I'm hoping you make it down to the coast, because that's definitely that's my favorite ride of all time, is just go down and just start. I will ride the blacktop all the way down to San Vicente, and then just come up the dirt road.
Nice. And
so there's, I mean, I'm sure you could do it. Who was there anybody in particular that you work with, logistically wise, or maybe that was outside of Score, that really helped you or helped your team?
Yeah. So there's a rider who rode on a Pro 30 team. His name's Nick Lake. He's done a lot of racing with another veteran team down there called Warrior Built. Mm-hmm. So I think for the past 5 years, he's done nearly every race down there. So he was extremely helpful. I even did some of my pre-running with him, because we were running the same section. So we kind of teamed up. And then Skylar Piera, he's just a mechanic with McMillan Racing, big old trophy truck team down there. And he's a Marine vet as well. And he's been down there so many times, every race for the, years and years. And his dad even too is one of the co-drivers for the team. So, I mean, those guys were extremely helpful. And then, just Score, so guys that are on teams, riders and stuff. And then just literally any question I had for Score was answered, or I was directed, where I needed to go.
Nice. And actually that brings up another question. And because you mentioned the trophy truck, the relationship on race day between motorcycles and vehicles. You rode kind of that middle section, so a bit early in the day, but Did you guys have any exchanges with vehicles on the course, being passed by the lead trucks or anything like that?
Yeah. So our last rider, right as he was really getting into town, he was passed by Bryce Menzies, winner of the trophy truck. And that was the only time we got passed. As far as interaction goes with the teams, not a ton of interaction, on pre-running, I needed some Gorilla tape. So I reached out to, a trophy truck team and I got it, but not a ton of interaction because we start so early and they start so late and we're just trying not to get passed, Okay. That was one of my things. I was like, I just don't want to get passed. And so thankfully our last guy, it stinks for him. He got passed at the last minute, but yeah. I think that summit slowed a lot of the trophy trucks down. Mm-hmm. And so it gave a way for the bikes to be able to kind of make it through before getting past. Yeah. And it's interesting. They only recently, I feel like, started doing that where they have like the bike line, to get around some of these, sections and increase that distance. I was just curious, I don't know if the last rider talked about it, the courtesy, was he patient? Did he wait? I mean, it's the lead truck. If anybody's got got zero time to waste, it's the lead truck. And I'm just curious, if they felt like it was maybe kind of sketchy, other than, 1,000 horsepower all-wheel drive truck. Yeah. So I think depending on the section you're in, when you do get past, it can be very sketchy. But that's just, I think it's one thing that also should be stated when you're going down there and even thinking about racing is, if they're coming, get out of the way. So for him, his Stella was beeping like crazy. The tracking system was beeping like crazy. He sees the helicopter. And so he's just like, okay, I'm going to get out of the way. I don't even want to be a part of this. And then, they go by and then he goes on his merry way again too. I think, a good rule of thumb too is as one passes you, there's probably going to be, especially if the racing's tight, there's going to be a lot of them right there, because there's a ton of money in those and they, it's all on the line for them. So he kind of waited a little bit, listened, okay, there's no more coming. I'm going to go. But thankfully the Stella, beeps at you and lets you know somebody's coming. And then a lot of time for those lead trophy trucks, there's going to be a helicopter there too. And the helicopters almost provide that courtesy of letting the bikes know, going out in front and saying, hey, something's coming. So.
Yep. I've experienced that in a car before in Prim, Nevada, and having Chuck Hovey catch me. I was in a 10 car and he was doing the lap on us. And for a minute you think, hey, wow, I'm going to be on TV. The helicopter's here for me. And then you quickly realize, nah, I got a feeling there's something. I'm the bait.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's cool. Yeah, so you get some more, because I feel like that is another, in talking previously and talking to some of the other teams, that has been kind of a point of contention. It's like, well, the trophy trucks and this, and you can't really account for every driver out there. Yeah. But it seems like there's more positive experiences than there are negative experiences.
Yeah. And I know talking with, my buddy who works for McMillan, the trophy truck drivers, a lot of them, they have just the utmost respect for us because they see how hard the course is. And they're like, man, these guys on bikes are out there doing it. And they care about us, because it's dangerous out there for everybody. So it kind of goes back to that whole family thing. But at the same time, too, we also have to care about them and know that, hey, they're racing for, all of their marbles,
Yeah.
So, they're racing and let's get out of the way for them, too. So I think there's like that mutual respect that, I'm not going to run you over, but I am going to have my helicopter go way ahead and say, hey, get out of the way, please.
Yeah. Well, and that's, that's interesting. It's a very valid point. Everybody looking out for everybody, and I would think that the guys that are going to get, you're being competitive in the class, and you never know, competitive in the class could be everybody had mechanical issues in your class and you guys are all kind of back markers in the moto group, quote unquote, right? Back markers, but the ones that are likely to get caught before the end of the race. And if everybody's cognizant of that, like, hey, I know that these guys are going to be coming up. My race is just right here. They're going to have to deal with the same dust. There's no reason for me to try and push and jackrabbit on a trophy truck because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really comes down to just, courtesy and etiquette almost, just knowing that this thing will mow you over in a second, though the driver doesn't want to do that. It's a possibility, and giving them the respect to it. It really just comes down to respect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel that at this point they make enough noise and they have enough presence that there's almost that like the hair on your back of your neck, yes, kind of like when you think you saw a ghost, but not really.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like that could happen, but
yeah.
Awesome. All right. So what do we sponsor wise? Anybody that, Softly was one that was the main sponsor. Did you guys have anybody else helping the team out? Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, we do. So we've got Softly, our main sponsor. We've also got an all veteran owned camo company called Kryptek. Mm-hmm. They've given us a ton of support this year on a lot of levels. We've got Oakley standard issue, which, a lot of military guys throughout their career have worn the Oakley standard issue glasses. We have them on board, thankfully, for some goggles, but Oakley standard issue is on board. Maxxis Tires. Maxxis has been huge for us, just with more support we can ever ask for, and then also an extremely durable tire. Mm-hmm. And then Yamaha as well. So we've gotten some support from Yamaha, and so just connections of connections. They've helped us out a ton as well, just getting these Yamahas out to Baja and showcasing what these bikes can really do.
And dialed in. The cool part hearing is that it's the motor is basically it's a sealed motor. Nothing, mm-hmm. Nothing. It didn't get sent to Pro Circuit. It didn't get the blueprinting. It didn't get anything. It was just literally the Yamaha motor as it comes from the factory.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're solid. Yeah. Tank.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, cool. Well, I'll put, we'll chat offline and I'll get links going and all that stuff. So obviously, I mean, they supported you so we can support them and get their word out too. And, I mean, I work on bikes more than I ride them. I'll admit it now. Yeah. I think I've come to that realization. I enjoy building the bike more than I enjoy riding it. The perfectionist side of it. So yeah, any of this stuff like, is the bike here in, where's the bike located? The race bike?
Yeah. So we've got a bike. It's actually in Arizona right now. But we've got, keep it out west so that we can fly out there. And then also because a lot of our team too is based out of California and Arizona, so they can then work on it while we're over here and kind of prep it. Yeah. So
well, cool. Well, maybe we'll catch you guys at the 24 Hours of Glen Helen and check out the bikes. Oh, yeah. I love nerding out on the bikes and how they get set up, and that's the cool part, right? It sounds like the bike came off the factory or the showroom floor. It got a desert tank. It got some gearing changes. Probably the traditional skid plate, and then some suspension work, which is what everybody should do.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the tally, see that would be hard for me because I love putting every last thing like, ooh, look, blue shiny thing. Let's put the blue shiny thing on here because it'll make it faster.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so, with the help of Trevor Hunter, he kind of, let us know that, because he put those bikes through the ringer, and it just let us know that, hey, this thing right out the box isn't going to take a whole lot to be able to go through a whole lot. So, nice. Yeah, I mean, and even so, we at this point we've fully broken the bike down, and it's very, very little things that even need to be replaced on it.
Nice.
And so it's fully broken down and ready to go again for Vegas to Reno with very, very little.
That's awesome. And that is, like I had talked to, there was another friend that I was talking to. He does suspension, and it's a very, very close knit, tight group of people. Like a lot of people in the group would never know he does suspension, and at a very, very high level. And I was talking to him about that. I'm like, okay, what's the bike out of the, right off the show? What has the best suspension? Like literally just drop springs in it and then, hit some clickers, maybe a valving change, and then done. You don't need to upgrade the forks with this and do this rear shock and do all of this stuff. And interesting enough, he said none of them. But I feel like that's from what you're saying and based on what you're saying, I feel like that is kind of starting to change. I think that the Austrian brands have been on top for so long that now all the other brands are, having to, Honda's obviously got the new bike. Yamaha's got the new bike. I'm sure Cowie just released their new bike. So I got a feeling that the bar's been raised, and I think it's going to change.
Oh yeah. I mean, so even with the Yamaha, so what we did right out of the box before we did anything else with suspension was we changed springs, and we just, what does just changing springs do? Now, not for Baja, but like even some of the SoCal SRA GPs and stuff like that. And I think with those bikes, you set the springs up for yourself, and everything else kind of just, it works. It does really well right out of the box. So, with a KTM, for example, maybe you're throwing in, a spring conversion kit or something like that. But with these bikes, right out of the box, like, set it up for your weight and everything, do the sag, and then go from there, because they come very capable, right out of the box.
Nice. Well, I don't know, man. I don't need another bike. See, that's the problem with the podcast, is you talk to so many people with so many different bikes, and you go like, ooh, what about one of those?
Yeah, well, that's the addiction, right?
I know. Yeah, exactly. I was talking to a friend last night about that, and I told him, it's like, we were going out to dinner, and I was like, I'm going to need about another half hour before I meet up with you guys, because I have to finish this bike. It's like you just get sucked into tinkering, and you just don't want to let it go. You want to get it perfect. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, excellent, sir. I really appreciate you being on the show. You're going to be the first in the series, so you beat everybody to it.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been fun.
Yeah, of course. And then again, we'll chat offline so I can get those links and make sure we tag the right people. Get them into the spotlight for what they've done to help you get you and the team get to where you guys are at. So.
Absolutely.
We'll get that going. Awesome. All right, Seth. Well, perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being on the show, and we will talk soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Bye-bye. Thanks. All right. So there you have it. That was Seth Barnes, and we were talking racing down in Baja, just finishing up the Baja 500. So that was the story, guys. This is, it's awesome to hear. It's like the perfect first person for this series, because it's somebody that's never been down to Baja, somebody that's, just barely getting their feet wet as far as racing down there goes. And then now the plans to go to the 1,000. Absolutely awesome to hear, and the experience. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm going to want to try and bring with this series of Back to Baja. It's just one of those things that a lot of racing can be done down there. There are a lot of rallies. I'm absolutely not leaving the rally thing. You heard, Seth, that there is a plan to get into the Sonora Rally and race that. They may not even be aware that Baja Rally is there as well. So it definitely, it opens up the door to more motorsport down there, more people going down there and enjoying the time. And like I said, I mean, we'll hear. I have my opinions, but I'm going to let you guys listen to the episodes and form your own opinions about racing down there, going down there as a tourist, doing moto rides. There's a lot of tour companies down there. They'll show you the ropes. They'll show you where to go. They'll give you some tracks. They'll follow you. They'll go with you, chase you. There's a ton of stuff out there. And so it's just a matter of like, okay, what are the resources and what are else? So I've been fortunate enough to be able to help a lot of the rally events, and growth and getting people and answering questions and getting more people into the sport. I'm loving that idea, and I love to try and do that with the Baja series as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Again, this is episode 128. I'm starting to lose track. It's the age thing, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoy. Remember, it will make sense when you get there. Enjoy the ride. All right, that is the wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you heard. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of others. Also, follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook under Chasing Waypoints, Instagram Chasing Waypoints _official, and of course, the YouTube under Chasing Waypoints. Hope everybody has a good week. We will see you guys for the next episode. Remember, shiny side up, and don't forget to tag us. We want to see where you guys are riding and what you guys are up to. Have a great week.